Hello everybody, my name is Dan, and welcome to the next episode of the Getting Started with MonoGame series. So, in the last episode we created our project, but in this episode we're actually going to get ready and import our assets for this game. There are several ways to kind of import your assets. A lot of people do like a bulk load here and just set some static fields within their game 1 class which they can access across the board. That is one option. It can get a little bit monolithic when you do that, so you'll have a bunch of assets just sitting in game 1. Alternatively, you can make several different classes that just hold content specific to a screen, so the screen can then have a load function, a load method that can load the content up. Things like that, so it'll save a lot on RAM if you're unloading and loading assets when required. But for the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to just load the assets in the game 1 file, and we're going to use them in the game 1 file as well. And then as we move on throughout the tutorial series, you'll look at refactoring this and actually creating something a little bit more cleaner, a little bit more cement. Okay, so let's go ahead and load some content files. If you go to your Solutions Explorer on the right, onto your content, and right click it, you can press Open Folder in File Explorer. So we'll do that. Okay, with that open, you should see that we've got this content.mgcb file. Now this is what we're going to use to import our assets. There has been an episode covering this, so it shouldn't be too unfamiliar to you. And for the purpose of this tutorial, I've added a sound effect and a JPEG to the description. If you download those, you can feel free to make use of those, or you can just use your own assets. It's completely fine either way. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this. If we open the content.mgcb file, we should open our content editor tool. And by right-clicking content, we can add existing items. Now my two files exist on my desktop for this tutorial, and it's just the splash image and the splash sound. And if you select both of these, you should be able to open. And then this next screen will come up, which is a little bit important. So you've got a few choices. Copy the file to the directory is the one we'll be taking. This ensures that the file is actually copied to our project. For this one, add a link. This basically will set the path of that file to wherever you're referencing it from. So in this case, it would be this path here. Now the problem with that is if I go ahead and delete that image off the desktop, which I will eventually, because that's how I deal with my desktop. I just delete everything off it, standard way. That will no longer be referenced in the project, or at least it won't be able to find it. It'll still attempt to find the splash image at that path. So this, obviously the best way to go about this is to copy the file to the directory. So we'll be doing that, and we'll use the same action for all selected files and add. Yep, and on the left you should be able to see that the splash image and the splash sound is now within the content, and also within your file explorer you can see that those two things have actually been copied over, which is what we wanted. A little asterisk here indicates that we need to actually save this, so don't forget when you've imported content to save, otherwise you'll have a problem when you're importing that content using code. It'll say that it doesn't exist or it cannot be found because you haven't saved your MGCB file. Alright, so we've done that. Let's close up these two things and let's get these imported. So for our image, we want a texture 2D. This is the type of image that MonoGame uses. This is the reference to an image, and we'll call that our splash image. And for a sound effect, MonoGame just calls them sound effects, like so. Now the best place to load these is going to be in the load content method for game 1. Alternatively, we could set up a second class and load content could call that class and do load or something. But for now, let's just do it within the load content, and we'll focus on cleaning this up another time. Okay, so how do we tell the content manager to load some content for us? Well, it's very simple. MonoGame comes with a content manager set up here. So as you can see, it's actually setting the root directory to the content manager. And it's basically saying, hey, content manager, the root directory for my content is the content folder. So that's referring to this folder here. So that any asset you load will be relative to that folder itself. So you're not going to have to do, hey, I want to load a file from C, my program / whatever. You can just do the file name or a directory within this content folder. So let's go ahead and do that. let's load our texture 2D. Within the load content method, we can just do splash image equals. We want to tell content manager to load. The type is a texture 2D, and we pass in the asset name or the path. So this asset name splash image exists within the root of the content folder, so we just need to pass in the splash image with no file extension. Don't forget that. Don't need the file extension. And we'll do the same then for the sound effect. So let's duplicate that line and just change sound effect here. The content type is now a sound effect, and its asset name is splash sound. Beautiful. So now we've got two assets imported. If we run this, you should get no errors at all, and we should just get a black screen. If there's a problem, it will not show the black screen. It'll just say, hey, you've got an error. Okay, so it looks like it's found them. It's loaded them successfully, which means we can make use of them. So let's do that. So let's do a quick check here. Once it's loaded, let's just play the sound effect. So if you go for sound effect, it has a method called play, and that'll just play it once. It'll just play it once it's loaded. So it'll load it here, and then on line 36, I'm playing it. So let's run it again. You should hear the sound. Well, I heard it, but it's possible you didn't. Let's keep that line for now. And now let's draw our splash image to the screen. Okay, so within the draw method at the bottom, this is where we're going to be doing all of our draw calls to sprite batch. Okay, so what do we need to do? First, we need to tell sprite batch, hey, I want you to prepare a frame for drawing. So how you do that is you use sprite batch. It's this reference here, the underscore. For me specifically, you got it here as well. So I have a private field. I have a private field at the top that's just sprite batch. That's what I want to use. So sprite batch.begin. That says, hey, I want you to start drawing something. Get ready to draw something. And you also, after it, you want sprite batch.end. That says, hey, I'm done drawing. You can go off and do what you want now. And you need those two lines whenever you're drawing something with sprite batch. Otherwise, it'll complain. It'll say, hey, you haven't started sprite batch yet. Have you forgot a call to begin? Or you haven't ended sprite batch yet. If you call sprite batch.begin without ending sprite batch, it'll complain again. It'll say, hey, you haven't ended sprite batch. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong here. Just remember that anytime you draw something, it has to be within sprite batch. So with this, we want to do sprite batch.draw, and the first parameter of draw is actually a texture. So we'll pass in our splash image. Let's go on the next line here so we can see what we're doing. Oops. The next parameter is a rectangle. This indicates the position on the screen and its size. So the new rectangle, this is a type in MonoGame. It has a 0. It has an X position, which is 0, which is the left of the screen. It has a Y position, which is 0, which is the top of the screen, and then it has a width and a height. So to get the size of the window itself, we can use the graphics. We can use the graphics private field to extract those out. So it's graphics dot preferred back buffer width and graphics dot preferred back buffer height. That'll get the expected things out, and then we can pass in a color once we fit. Oh, yep. So close up the rectangle. That's our rectangle defined, and on the next line, sprite batch requires a color. The default color is color.white. That just says, hey, sprite batch, I don't want you to tint it. So let's run it. And there you go. We got a picture to the screen. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.